It's the Sports Center right now. I'm Antonieta Collins. According to the NCAA record books, this moment never happened. Louisville must vacate its 2013 national title after losing its appeal to the NCAA. The basketball program must also vacate 123 wins, which includes 15 NCAA tournament games. The penalties stem from an escort scandal involving a former Louisville staff member, players, and recruits over a 4-year period. Here's interim Louisville president Greg Postel about the NCAA's decision.
I don't think they made an example of us specifically. I think they're setting out to make an example of any kind of wrong behavior in their judgment. So we've seen other examples very recently where the NCAA has ruled in an unfavorable way against schools for various types of behavior. And I think the message is loud and clear to anyone who has not heard it. I mean, you have to run a clean program. And if you do, then you won't be spending your time giving these kinds of press conferences. If there's a problem, you're going to be called into question.
To some Louisville players that will always be champions, Luke Hancock's 2013's most outstanding player said in part, "I don't care that much about the perception, and I don't think it changes that much. We won those games. It's not like that never happened." Kevin Ware, a guard on that Louisville title team, said it's dumb. At the end of the day, the mistakes that Andre McGee made didn't have to do with us. The NCAA is a joke. Let's get it back to First Take.
Tony, thank you. We're going to pick up that conversation. Will Kane with us. Good to see you as always. So, Will, as you just heard, Louisville stripped of all their wins from 2011 to 2015, plus some financial penalties. Do you have a problem with this punishment?
I have a massive problem with it. I think the NCAA is a joke, as we just heard. I think that's absolutely what it is. And this punishment is a joke of an overreaction. And it's the NCAA telling on itself. This is the last death throes of somebody who's about to get completely exposed, that being the NCAA. Now, why do I tell you that? I'll give you 3 reasons. Number one, they seem to have a history now of punishing the harshest those who come down on themselves. First, it was Notre Dame just a few weeks ago who told on themselves to the NCAA that they had a student trainer helping 2 students who were on the football team cheat. For turning themselves in, the NCAA vacated almost 2 years worth of Notre Dame's wins. Here we have Louisville, who punished themselves. Now, they didn't turn themselves in. Let's not pretend like Louisville is some, angel in this scenario. They're absolutely not. But they did punish themselves. They did take themselves out of postseason tournaments. And for that, the NCAA comes down hard. This in opposition to, for example, the University of North Carolina, who's fought them tooth and nail on their academic violations, and North Carolina has got off easy. So message number 1, the NCAA says, is if you turn yourself in or you punish yourself, we'll come down on you harder than if you fight.
Perverse incentives.
Yeah, absolutely perverse incentives. Second, look, the past happened. You can't make it go away. USC was national champion in the early 2000s. We know these things. You can wipe it away. You can act like you want it didn't happen, but none of us are going to take that seriously. I think it's a joke to try to convince us that Louisville wasn't the national champion in 2013. But finally, this is number 1. I find it also, Molly, coming down extra hard in 2 ways. Number 1, these were improper benefits. Max, I heard you talking about that earlier. It was improper benefits, but on the scale of actual monetary value that students are getting out there, it's nothing. No one else has gotten a punishment like this for these kind of benefits. And if it's unethical, if the argument is how unethical it was, and by the way, I think it was unethical, there's also no history of them ever punishing someone this hard for more unethical conduct than this. Did Penn State, did they have to vacate any wins? No.
A great point.
When it was all said and told, Penn State did not have to vacate any wins. So I don't see any precedent, any consistency. So in the end, you know what I think NCAA is doing here? They're about to get busted. There are programs cheating. Pete Thamel's written about this on Yahoo. Hall of Fame coaches, top 10 programs, all about to come down under the FBI. And this is a last-minute ditch attempt of the NCAA to try to look tough. They're not tough.
But the last-minute ditch attempt by the NCAA to try to look tough, say what you will, but the bottom line is precedent has to start somewhere. You know, if something never happened, that's no reason for it not to ever happen. I mean, you have to bring down the hammer in some capacity. Now, we all know they're hypocrites. We all know they're phonies. We all know that they pick and choose who they want to go after. We all know that they're flaming hypocrites. We get all of that. There's no dispute there. We can't dispute that. But in the end, what it comes down to is that whether or not what was transpiring was a violation, and it was a violation.
No doubt.
Now, if it was a violation, basically what you're saying is because you didn't punish anybody before, you shouldn't have done so in this particular instance. I'm saying that it has to start somewhere.
Well, real quick, I'm not arguing for no punishment, Steve.
Okay.
I'm saying vacating national titles in 4 years worth of wins is an overreaction. Severe.
Yeah, well, let me tell you why I don't think it's that severe. I think it's much ado about nothing. I think the Louisville players are right. What you gonna do? I saw them beat Michigan for the national title. I remember that. One of Kevin Ware and one of the other players talk about, I still got this ring here. They ain't giving that back. The money that the university garnered during that NCAA tournament run, they don't have to give any of that back. So this is all pomp and circumstance along the lines of exactly what you're saying, Will. And because it's that, essentially it's artificial. And at the end of the day, you know what? You're sending an artificial message because in the end, what you want to do is use it as a dissuasive measure to make sure that other programs don't follow down the pike, because we might get you a hell of a lot earlier than we got Louisville. And oh, by the way, because there's a precedent that's set here, it'll give us an excuse that we need to bring the hammer down even more profoundly in the future.
The NCAA looks hypocritical and impotent here. It reminds me of Team America World Police. Remember this when they send a weapons inspector. Hans Blix was the UN weapons inspector, is going to check out North Korea, and Kim Jong-il at the time was mocking him, like, what's Hans Blix going to do? What are you going to do if you find some weapons? And Hans Blix said, I'm going to write you a letter that says you have been very, very bad. He's going to censure him, right? Not sanction, but censure. That's kind of what the NCAA, what are they doing here? It's kind of tough to say they're overreacting. I know what you mean, Will, and at the same time say they ain't really doing anything. As I said earlier, they're going to take out a pocket watch and say, you never saw those games. We all saw those games. I think one of the reasons, if you take it as a real reaction kind of punishment, it has to do with the sordid nature of the benefits. The thing about sports is, particularly collegiate sports, it's family entertainment. Even discussing this subject, I'm careful about the words I choose to describe it. My girls have off for 2 days for President's Day, right? They're watching right now.
Hey, girls.
They're 9 and 6 and 3 years old. I need to be careful about that's part of the family entertainment of sports. It's appropriate. It should be for all ages, right? And this, the NCAA, I think, sees because of the sordid nature of it. We need to seem as though we're coming down hard on this. There's that. And then I think, Will, you're absolutely right. And Stephen A., you alluded to it earlier. If Pitino is the Canseco character here, there is Sosa and McGuire and Bonds coming down the pike. And I think they're a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's much ado about nothing. I actually find it an overreaction. So the vacation of records, you're right. We all saw it. I said it too. I know who the national champion was in 2013. But telling a school that you can no longer promote your national championship, that you have to take down the banners. Look, sports is about history. It's about accomplishments in history. The things that were done at Louisville were wrong. But they didn't really make that national championship happen for Louisville. That's not why they won a national championship.
Hold on. If you're saying, not you, but if they're saying that these players, because of their transgressions, were supposed to be ineligible, then that has everything to do with winning the national championship.
Okay.
What they're saying
You're
is
saying it's
those
not
guys should not have been
cheating,
playing.
it's
I understand what he's saying, but what I'm saying is you would be ineligible and you would not be allowed to play.
Yes.
So the fact that you were doing what you were doing and you were still playing, they're saying you shouldn't have been playing.
Yes, Stephen A., but we're not arguing about whether or not it's a crime. We're arguing about whether or not it's speeding or murder. That's what we're arguing about it. I believe some punishment is warranted.
Okay.
There were players who received improper benefits here. But honestly, we're talking about, by the way, same school, Brian Bowen getting $100 grand from Adidas. We're talking about
I agree.
top programs paying six figures
Well, I gotta admit to you, I believe that you're being a little bit too emotional here. Believe it or not, far be it for me to say this, but I gotta get on you about this. Why? Will, there's no future sanctions coming down the pike. They haven't been banned from the NCAA tournament. They took stuff in the past that you can't take from us. We're not gonna recognize. You can take those banners from the rafters. You don't have to give back money. You don't have to give back your championship rings. You don't have to give back the education you might have gotten while you were there. You certainly don't have to give back your experiences. All of that stuff matters.
The banners matter.
They do matter.
The banners in the rafters matter.
I'm just saying.
Enough to dissuade you from that behavior.
Come on now. Come on now.
No, it matters, Max, but if you really, I do agree with you on this. If you want to affect behavior, and the NCAA doesn't want to, if you want to affect it, punish forward. You can't go to the NCAA.
The NCAA doesn't want to. We all
And
agree
my
about
point to you,
that.
if you're not punishing forward, why are you sweating it?
It still makes the
Why
pass.
are you sweating it?
Pass
I'm
matters.
with you.
The pass matters.
I'm with
Why
you. Just the
sweating it?
players are getting hurt
Why?
by this.
Oh, you didn't have it. Listen, all the experiences they had at Louisville, they can't take it back.
Okay,
They can't
relax.
take it back.
Will's coming back with us to discuss
Not
this
going
topic.
anywhere.
Let's settle down, boys. A former NFL quarterback says Dak Prescott did not play as well as he could play last season. But how much blame does he deserve? We're talking the Cowboys. And after winning the title and final MVP last season, some argued KD might be the best player in the world. But don't miss the controversial list that barely considers him a top 10 player. That's coming up next.
On the road to redemption, I had Yeezy on the road to the